Welcome to Little Seeds of Faith, a podcast where children help read a treasured Bible story, and we get a chance to explore and talk about the lessons we learn. Hi, my name is Joanie, and I love reading. My most treasured book to read is the Bible. The Bible has great adventures, love stories, stories of hope and truth, and most importantly, stories of faith. Hi, Heidi. Welcome to Little Seeds of Faith. I'm so excited to be here with you. Can you tell me how old you are?
8.
You're 8. And where are you from, Heidi?
Australia.
Australia. So, Heidi, do you have anything interesting about yourself that you would like to share with me?
I have a budgie and 4 chickens.
Do your chickens have names?
I named them when they were little chickens, but I forgot their names now. The budgie is actually mine, but the chickens are not really.
Do the budgies have names?
The budgie, I have one budgie and its name is
Ruffles. And is it fun colors? Is it bright colors?
It's light blue.
Light blue.
And white.
Okay, so for people that don't know, a budgie is a bird, right?
Mm.
And it's a little bird. Is it like a little bird?
Yeah, little bird.
So you have a little blue bird named Ruffles. That's a good name for a bird. Did you name the bird?
Yes. I saw it ruffling its feathers and I named it Ruffle.
And that's very creative. I like that name. So we are here today to read from the Bible. And what story are we reading today?
God's promises to Abram.
Yeah, God's promises to Abram. This is a really big story, isn't it? This is the beginning of the nation of the Jews, the Hebrews, right? And so do you know what book of the Bible do we find the story of Abram?
No.
No, it's in the very first book, the book of Genesis. And so in the book of Genesis, it starts off with creation, right? And then it has the story of Cain and Abel, Noah and the flood. And then after Noah and the flood is the Tower of Babel, where all the people get dispersed all over the world, right? And so then now we have the story of Abram. And so why are we saying Abram instead of Abraham?
His real name was Abram, but then God changed his name to Abraham later on.
Later on, that's right. So we're starting at the very, very beginning in Genesis. We're starting at Genesis chapter 11. We're going to read from Genesis 11, Genesis 12, and Genesis chapter 13. Just little bits of where God speaks to Abram and gives him his promises. So are you ready to begin reading?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to begin, and then when it's your turn, if you follow along, it's your turn, then you can chime in. You ready? Okay. So the story of the promises of Abram. These are the family records of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in his native land in Ur of the Chaldeans during his father Terah's lifetime. Abram and Nahor took wives. Abram's wife was Sarai, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Ishcah. Sarai was unable to conceive. She did not have a child. So that's really important to remember, right? That's an important line. So Abram is married to Sarai, and Sarai could not have a child. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, who is Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they set out together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran.
The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your land, your relatives, and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land of the site of Shechem at the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land.
The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him.
All right, we're going to just pause right there quickly and talk about what we just read, okay? So we have Abram, and he gets a message from God, or God speaks to him, or it says the Lord speaks to Abram. And what does the Lord say to Abram at the very beginning? That he needs to what?
That he needs to leave everything he got in the land he was living in.
That's right. You need to leave the land of Ur, where your father brought you, and you need to go to the land of Canaan. Now, there was a problem there. Was the land of Canaan empty? Could he just go there and take that land?
No.
No, it was not empty at all. There was the Canaanites were living there. But God promises that Abram is going to get this land. Now, here's a question for you. Does Abram go and live in that land right away?
I don't think so.
You're right. He does not. He travels around for a little bit. So he goes to land, and God shows him this land. It says, this is going to be your land. But he also says something else. He says, to your offspring, I will give you this land. What's an offspring? Do you know what offspring is?
Your children.
Your children. Now, doesn't the Lord know that Abram is 75 years old and Sarai cannot have children? They have no kids. So how is that a promise? How is that going to happen? Do you know? Right now, it looks like a weird promise, right? There is no children. We know, because we have read ahead, that Abram, or at that time he's Abraham, does have a child. That is going to be the promised one. But this time, there is no child and there's no land. But the Lord is still promising these things to Abram. Okay? So some time has passed. Abram he sees the land, he makes an altar, and he worships God at that time. Okay? So we're going to keep reading there. All right? So he says, from there he moved on to the hill country east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. He built an altar to the Lord there, and he called on the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed by stages to the land of Negev. So some time has passed by here, and Abram still doesn't have a child. He's still not living in this land. But the Lord is still promising these things to him, okay? And also, he had his nephew Lot with him. And over time, does Lot stay with Abram? No, where does Lot go? Do you know where he goes?
No.
He goes to Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah is not a good city, but that's where Lot decides to live instead of in the nice land country, where Abram lives. So Lot leaves Abram and he goes away. And once again, the Lord speaks to Abram.
Look from the place where you are. Look north, look south, east, and west. For I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth. So if anyone could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring could be counted. Get up and walk around this land, through its length and width, for I will give it to you.
Abram moved his tent and went to live near the oaks of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. So once again, a little bit of time have gone on, and the Lord's coming to vision again to Abram. What's he saying?
Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. the reward will be very great.
But Abram said, Lord, what can you give me, since I am childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? Abram continued, Look, you have given me no offspring, so a slave born in my house will be my heir. But now the word of the Lord came to him.
This one will not be your heir. Instead, one who comes from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look at the sky and count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then he said, Your offspring will be that numerous.
And Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. So we're going to stop reading there. There's another time where Abram gets more promises and more of a covenant, and that is in chapter 17 when his name gets changed from Abram to Abraham. But I'm going to say that story for another time, because it talks about when Isaac is born also, or the promises of Isaac, and a little bit different. So these are like the first 3 times that we see the Lord speaking to Abram, right? And so here's a question. Did Abram see any of these promises? What does it say about the stars? How many children is he going to have? Is it as many as the what?
As many as the stars and as much as the dust of the earth. If anybody can count them, then they can count the offspring.
Right. But does Abram
can, so
right? Nobody can count those. There's so many. Like, you pick up a handful of dirt. Can you count how much dirt you have in one hand?
No.
No, like, I can't. I don't know anyone that can. When you look up, have you seen a sky full of stars before?
But when I went outside to count, then I counted only 6.
Is that because you can only see 6 where you were?
I looked around and just couldn't see much. Probably it was cloudy.
Yes, that could be a problem. But if you ever go out like really night and there's no clouds in the sky and there's no light pollution around, there's so many stars. I'm sure you at least have seen a picture of it. And there's no way to count all the stars. So he's going to have so many offspring that you can't even count them. But there is still a problem here. Abram does not have any children. Did Abram see these promises fulfilled in his lifetime? Did he have that many offspring that he could not count? And did he live in that land? This is a surprising thing about the story of Abram, is that he gets all these promises, but he has one son. Well, he has 2 sons, but one son who the promise is through, who's Isaac, right? Can you count that? Yeah, I can count 1, right? And he doesn't actually get to live in the land of Canaan. Would you say that Abram had to have faith?
Yes.
Yes, he did. At what point do you think he had faith, some great faith?
He had to leave all of his family and everything that he had.
Yeah, he had to
or
leave.
Couldn't bring.
Yeah, but he did bring some stuff, and along the way he did collect. He had lots of camels and sheep, and he had a lot to take care of, but he had to leave the land where he grew up in and move to a land that he didn't end up living in. He lived in a tent his whole life. That would be really hard. But he also had to have faith that God was going to fulfill these promises, right? Of having a land and having an heir. One of those important things about Abram is that he's promised nations, and he's promised this land, and all this stuff is actually, he's being promised this stuff in the kingdom time, not in his lifetime. So in the kingdom time, he will be living in that land, and his heir is going to be Jesus, who is in charge of it all. Does that make sense? So when we read these stories, do you have any questions that you would like to ask about the story to anybody?
Why was it important that the promised child came from Sarai?
I think that's a great question to ask people to think about. What we read is that at the time, he had no children. And so a slave was going to get all of his things. But God says, no, it's not going to be a slave. It's going to be somebody that comes from your body through Sarai. So the question is, why was it important that the promised child come from Sarai?
Can anybody count the dust or the stars?
That gives us a lot of hope, doesn't it? Because those dust and the stars, that's us. And we're part of that number, and that's a big number, right? That's a big number. All right, Heidi, do you have any words of wisdom or a joke or a fun fact that you'd like to share? No, you don't have a favorite joke?
But I do what I like.
What do you like?
Knock, knock.
Okay. You want to do a knock, knock joke real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, you start.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Knock, knock. Interrupting cow. Moo.
Moo, right? My kids liked that joke too when they were younger. That's a good one. Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for coming on the podcast with me today. I hope you had fun.
Yes.
I hope this podcast planted a little seed of faith in your heart today. If you would like to read with me, email us at littleseeds@wcfoundation.org.
Did you know that some of our outreach programs help those in financial, medical, and emotional crisis? Bad things happen in the lives of many. We believe in helping those who have stumbled. This includes assisting in the cost of emergency medical procedures, help to those who have lost employment, or those facing a sudden challenge due to emotional difficulties. If you would like to donate, please visit wcfoundation.org and look for the link Invest in Faith.